Well, hello and welcome to the wrap episode number 27. This is Thursday, January 19th. I'm Nathan Guerra. Anna Russel is next to me, and this is the show wrapping up all things Zwift from the last week. We're talking racing, we're talking events, we're talking tech, and we're talking the best looking kits that Anna can find in the world of Zwift. That is the fashion show. We're live on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. This is also a podcast that you can download anywhere in the world that you can find podcasts. Just search The Wrap and Zwift, and it should come right on up. Today on The Wrap, what are we talking about? We're talking about the TTT. We're talking about some sort of Guerra Workouts Club that Anna put in here that I wasn't sure we were suddenly talking about. We're talking about the Zwift Grand Prix. We're talking about Peak Zwift and how it's going. And we've got a special guest that I'm really, really excited about, Caroline Sale, a.k.a. BamBam from The Herd. If you haven't read her write-ups on races and how they go in D-category races or seen them in the Facebook group, they're absolutely hilarious, and they're some of the best reads, actually. Zwift Insider featured them. That's going to be a lot of fun talking to her. Of course, fashion show. So I'm hanging out in Wisconsin. It's cold here. Well, actually, it's 2 degrees C, so it's above freezing, which is actually kind of not normal for Wisconsin, but it also, like, hail rained last night with snow, and now, like, if you want to drive, it's more dangerous than, like, taking on a badger or something. But what's going on in New Zealand, Anna?
Well, I'm back home, and I'm going to be super blunt and honest, is that last week when I watched a little bit of the show, I was like, wow, car cam does not look great. And so today I got up a touch earlier and I actually put on a bit of makeup and was like, I've got my light going. I'm back in my little studio downstairs. I was like, okay, man, that was not a good watch. So I put it on my YouTube anyway to say that is probably the most unflattering camera angle you could ever have is car cam. But yes, I am back home now. Our holidays are kind of winding to a close, although we're heading straight to the beach today, which I'm super excited about. Pretty much in New Zealand, everyone lives fairly close to a beach. So, yeah, head over there. And, yes, ZRL was awesome last week as well, the TTT. I know you covered USA East, but we tried a new strategy and got the closest we've ever been to 2024, and we didn't have a DS either. So this was a non-DS strategy, which worked really, really well, where we didn't really have to rely on someone telling us where to go, and we all just kind of meshed together, and we're quite a new team too. So I was super pumped for that, actually, that worked. Yeah, I'll share it after the season's over.
Oh, come on. I can't believe you just did that. Everyone's going to be like, I show up for the wrap for this kind of content. Now you're like, no.
Okay. I'll share it. It's all good. So we can't take ourselves too seriously, right?
Well, you can tell that Anna is actually taking this pretty seriously when it comes to America's East rivalry that we set up. If you're not sharing the tricks and tips on the oh, man, holding them close. All right. We got to let ourselves go just a little bit here. Okay.
I'll let that go a bit. So for those teams who don't have a DS, because it is a disadvantage not having a DS for the TTT, because, and I will say that in the last 10 minutes, no, not even that much, 5 minutes where we lost the most time was because we were all just seeing red, and you kind of lose that thought process to be able to know what to do. So I think the DS would have been crucial in that part, and that could have helped us a lot. But what I did, it was kind of a mashup of what I do with the NZ Bro team that I do the Thursday TTTs with, is because they don't have a DS either, and it's a new team every week. It's kind of always shuffling around. So what you do is there's no order. So there was absolutely no order to how we were racing. And all we had to make sure that there was always someone on second wheel. So the only calls that were being made was the person at the front saying when they were coming off, and there was no set turn time. There was a set power number that you had to have on the front of the turn, but there was no turn time. You started your turn and you saw how you felt and you made the decision. And so I'd be like, Anna, 1 minute. So that means I'm coming off at 1 minute. And you'd say Megan second wheel. And so there was always had to be someone's second wheel. And other than that, don't care, group up behind, whatever you want, just stay. But there always had to be a second wheel. And so then Megan would roll through, and then the next person who was kind of feeling all right would go second wheel. And so what it did was it immediately, like, if you were feeling good, you just went to second wheel more often, or you had a longer turn. And if you're feeling terrible, you just would skip a turn. You just wouldn't say second wheel for a rotation. And so it kind of just enabled everyone to like flow together. And we were, I think, like 1 second off 2024, right up until, like I said, that last like 5 minutes. And I think when we came off the hill down out of Tidens into the ocean, we were all so wasted. And this is the only time where it kind of falls apart, is that if everyone's wasted and no one says second wheel, you've like got a problem. Because we
well,
went
on the
through
other end of that, I'm wondering if you have a problem if too many people are saying second wheel too. Like, does that happen at all? And what did you do with that situation?
Yeah, so no, I mean, I laughed with Megan afterwards. So we had one Canadian Megan there for the race, Megan Rathwell. And like on the very first time, her and someone else said second wheel at the same time. She's like, "Ooh, sorry. I don't know. Should I go?" I'm like, "Megan, no sorries. Just get on." Like, so she's like just typical Canadian, like, "Oh, sorry, guys. Like, I don't know if I should go." I'm like, no, stop talking. You say one word. And then after that, it was totally sweet. So I think, but yeah, it was that last little bit where we actually had no one went to second wheel. And because we're all so wasted, no one realized. So when the person came off the front, there was no one there. And it was like,
yeah.
So
that's where the
lost,
DS would really help to kind of just give some marching orders.
And they would have realized no one had said second wheel and there was no one there. So, but yeah, it was awesome. Like, we were totally pumped with how that went, because last time we got like, I think we were like 4th on the TTT. It's never been a strength. So it's always good to find that little like gem. And I think finding that mix between what is a perfect TTT strategy, which sometimes you can only execute when you've got a team who's practiced it, you're really familiar with each other, you know the game really well, and you know drafting, and you've all got like perfect computer setups. But if you don't have that and you don't have a DS, sometimes these strategies, although not in theory perfect, work out better.
You know, I really like what this makes me think of. Dude, there's a couple of things that come to mind right away, and I think you've hit on something because you set up this thing makes me think of coaching a lot of times, because the highest end coach will be someone who's talking to you minute to minute, right? Like at the highest level, you could pay somebody, I don't know, to live next to you and be a sounding board for what's constantly happening in your body, because your body is the plan, right? And so a lot of times we try and think, and when I first found a coach for myself for racing, I went out and tried finding what's the written thing that everyone's using so I can do it perfectly to the T so that I will get the best absolute result I possibly can, because it's out there. When really what my body needs from moment to moment is in here. And if I know my physiological state from moment to moment to moment to moment, I would know the best stressors as well as the best resters I would need. It's the same thing with your TTT. Everybody's at every moment is going to have something more or less to give depending on how hard. It's a dynamic thing. It's not a rigid thing. And I think a lot of times if you're able to have that kind of communication skills, and if you're able to have that kind of direction and but that takes a lot of communication. That takes a lot of kind of knowing how things are going, and self-awareness. But that's really, because I think that's probably the only thing I was wondering about is like people blobbing up behind second wheel, how well that works for you guys. But I mean, if that's working, like, and everybody's getting the rest that they need, that's almost like your roll through could be the best speeds roll throughs over and over again, coupled with everybody's coming fresh, and no one's going to fail the power numbers that you've asked them to do, because they're volunteering that they can do it every single time.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you've got a set order, what I've found is there could be someone who's like really dying, and they go through and take their turn because they have to, because they know that they're the next person to go, and they just get demoralized, because when you take that turn, when you're right on the edge, you just feel terrible, right? Whereas if you're like, I'm right on the edge, I'm right on the edge. Okay, no, I'm good. I'll go second wheel. I'm good. And you've made that decision autonomously yourself. You're like, well, I've made this decision. I better have a good turn and I can rest a bit more if I have to. So it made everyone, like, I think the difference you saw in the 2024 strategy and when you looked at ours, I would assume 2024 has a DS, but I mean, they had Kristen Kulczynski on the front for, I don't know, the whole race.
Oh my gosh. Seriously. Okay. So we commentated this, Dave and myself, and we had a little bit of a lead. Whenever it's TTT day, if those who are watching ZCL for those days are wondering why do they go a little late and why is there more lead in, it's because we're waiting for split times. It's because like team time trials are about the times that are coming in. And so like we want to make sure that we have a little bit more to talk about other than the pre-show stuff. So we had a little bit more pre-show, but I was watching over in the corner and I hadn't turned on the instant replay yet because I was like, well, it's TTT or whatever. And then I noticed that like literally from the pens all the way over to the volcano and maybe even more, Christian was on the front. So I had to push the replay button because I was like, what the heck? Like, this is crazy. She just pulled them around at like 5-6. I felt like she showed up and her coach, Lipka, Josh Lipka is both the DS and her coach. And I have a feeling that there was a little bit like, all right, this is just an FTP effort for you, Kristen. Go. Like, this is going to be some of your training to just work your FTP. At least that's what it looked like to me. Insane numbers on the front. I'm scared to ride with her at this point. Especially I'm in base mode and like I'm watching her numbers like I ain't going to no Ven top with Kristen right now.
Absolutely not. So I think that kind of, when you don't have a rider like that on your team, you've got to ride it as a team. And I think what we were kind of like, it was two totally different strategies. And for the most part, the time was negligible. Like it stayed so close right till the end. They might have had the advantage of some fresher riders at the end who'd been able to draft a bit longer. But yeah, like I think it was just
coming
cool
over the top of the Queen of the Mountain. I looked at the times for the climb and it was practically even. I was like, wow, okay, we got a race on our hands here. This is gonna be a lot of fun to watch. So really cool to see. Now, what did you think? Okay, we are diving really into ZRL TTT, and I like this right now because getting your perspective of the inside of that race helps a lot. And also, it isn't something we necessarily been able to do any interviews about or anything, but I want to know what the Women's Americas East is thinking about Optimum and them suddenly showing up. And I don't know if you watched the broadcast back, but I'm not trying to be mean. They did amazing. They don't know how to TTT, it looks like to me. Like they just were like literally just bunched up constantly fighting each other at 4.5 to 5 watts per kilogram, it looked like. And that's crazy numbers they were doing.
Yeah. So I think I'm seeing in the chat, Nat Davies has said their TTT strategy is blob up and go mental. And I think that's kind of what I saw with Optimum. And I think, to be fair, because I watched back the coverage, we actually had that with Madeline in our team as well. So she's a rower with huge like FTP numbers. And I actually think afterwards, I think she thought that it was just an individual time trial in a team. Because what I noticed with her numbers is in the recovery, she's still riding 4.5 watts a kg. And I was like, what are you doing? But then she'd go on the front at only 4.5 watts a kg. So when she was taking a turn, it was slowing down. I was like, what is up? Like, this is so... And I think when I watched Optimum, it was the same. And I think people could get confused and think we are just going out and as a team riding a time trial individually as fast as we can go. And that looked what they were doing as well. And I was like, man, that's a rough ride for them. And I think they had like 4 riders in the end. But there was like... I mean, if they can get it together, if they watch the coverage and go, oh, we got it a little wrong, they're going to be like screaming through that next one. But what a hard way to do a TTT, right?
Seriously, really, really difficult. I mean, essentially just going out and suffering all the way through, definitely. And that is a thing, I think, especially early on with TTT. We did see that a lot where people were of the mindset of like, not understanding how much the draft really matters, right? First time you drop into Pixel Land, you don't get that feedback that you do in real life. We've talked about that a lot, where you have the headwind that tells you, "Oh, I'm slowing down from wind in my face." You don't have those senses happening, for the changes in depth perception, etc. So not having that there, I think even that ability to check your depth perception, check what the wind is hitting. It's different cues you have to watch when you're watching pixels to know whether or not you're getting a draft and whether or not it's actually helping you. And I think it's a longer, you got to hang out with the game a little bit longer for that. So
I had a total aha moment with that. So someone at the club, like my triathlon club, who rides, she started doing like road cycling races as well. And she went on Zwift. And because I don't ride in the road as much, or maybe I'm just too gamey, I got it pretty quickly, right? I got it that when you're in the game and you're behind a wheel, you ease off your watts. So you're not going to feel anything, but you ease off your watts and you will still stay in the draft. So I kind of got that pretty quick. Whereas she's like, oh, so I'm in the draft, but it didn't get any easier. I was like, yeah, no, you have to make it easier. You've got to back off. And she was like, she thought, and I kind of got that. She thought she would feel the trainer ease off resistance. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And then when we were talking after the TTT, that's exactly what like Madeline said. She thought she would feel it get easier. So she was just still cranking hard. And she was like, it doesn't feel easier. I was like, no, you've got to ease off and find that like line between getting dropped and staying in the draft. And she was like, and we went back and looked, and her average power for the whole of event was 4.5. So she just had gone nuts. Mine was like just on 4, if not like 3.9. And I was like, I'm sitting here in the back, like I am drifting so far off. And they were like, we were wondering if you were drifting so far off because you were just getting cut off the pace, right? I was like, no, you can drift so far off on those TT bikes. So yeah, it's I think when people realize it's not going to feel easier, it's in your.
That's really funny.
You've got to ease. Yeah.
Because they shouldn't feel bad, because I think I've heard in chats or in a meeting somewhere that even people at Zwift had thought that. So don't worry about it. like that's not. And also the other thing there is there's a lot of trust that comes with that, since you don't have the cues that like, oh no, like, you know what I mean? Like you don't have those cues. And so trusting that this draft is just happening and there's a lot of experience. You have to experience in that over and over again to really get used to it. So, Eric J. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Go ahead, Anna.
From Eric J. We both saw this pop up at the same time. Do you think Source gives an unfair advantage in TTTs with the draft meter? Oh, Source. Do you know our most popular show from last year was the one where we talked about Source?
I saw that too. Yep, I saw that on the numbers.
And I've been too scared to talk about it again.
I think Sauce is getting loaded up right next to me too. So.
Oh, okay. I loved it. I had it for one ride and then I got an email, and so I've taken it off. But is it an unfair advantage? I wish Zwift would just get it in game so that there's no more chat about it being unfair or fair. I think so. It's so hard. Like, I think if you know the game really well, it's not an unfair advantage. Like, I think you know the draft, and if you go out, and I know you do this too, if you go out and you practice in races or with some of the pace partners, the draft, and you get a feel, you know. If you're new, and say like Team Optimum, like you mentioned before, was new to it, and there was another team that was new and one was using Source, yes, absolutely, they'd have an advantage.
Yeah, they would have an advantage. I agree with that, actually. That the difference, man. I mean, it's like the difference if I were playing. And I'll use another game, and I don't know if anyone will relate to this, but I mean, there's a pretty big difference between, some people could see this one way or another, but if I'm playing an FPS game, first-person shooter game, and I can see the numbers that are hitting on someone versus, like, I can see the damage I'm doing to them. Like, in some games, they have that. You can see when a bullet hits, you know you're doing damage, or you just kind of have to guess, or if it's like a little less obvious with maybe like a little like color splurt or something like that, there's something that changes that, oh, okay, you're not going to commit as much, if you don't know, you can't make that
Mhm.
judgment call. And so that's the place where I think like there's certain minute judgment calls that can be made in your own efforts at times that definitely changes things up. And even like when my head is down and I'm suffering to the point of just like I'm barely going to hang on at this point. Oh my gosh. There's times where I've mentally relied on those numbers, with sauce, where it's like that just
Yeah.
helped me to know, okay, a little bit more trust about what's going on right now. And I'm not just freaking out because I'm in the hurt locker. So the hard thing for me here is like I've always compared it to add-ons that are needed at the highest level of certain games. Like World of Warcraft is one game that there's lots of add-ons that are completely allowed by the developer, that are made by separate where there, and think I talked about this in the sauce, but I'm not sure, where there was an entire new software programs that were made just for bringing the add-ons into the game actually. And
Yeah.
so that's where I'm like, this is just needed.
Yeah.
There, like in order to know, there's a certain point where like in order you can turn it on or turn it off if you want a more natural looking
Yeah.
HUDless, cool look. But like there's some feedback that's just needed, and so in order to
Yeah.
know
You
what's
could
going on,
almost,
like right, like we don't have the headwind, right? So we got to have something.
yeah. You could almost say, like, if I looked at like a perfect scenario for me would be so Zwift, just go do this. I'm sure it's really easy. But like in their main menu screen, if you could just pick your overlay and be able to change it during your ride. So like just general ride mode. I don't really care about source, workout mode, whatever that's workout mode. But you could have like a race mode, right? Where you've got some more of these specific things that are more important, like what the thing that actually I used most in Source wasn't really the draft meter. It was that being able to see what pace the riders behind me and in front of me were doing just by looking. So you could be like, oh, that group chasing is riding a K an hour faster than me. I need to up this. And if I looked at the TTT, like I'm clicking around while I'm racing, saying like, what pace are these guys doing? What pace are these guys doing? Especially in the flat part where it equalizes out. And that's why I loved sources. I could just look and be like, oh yeah, that group there is doing 44K now. That group is doing 46. Okay, we need to like up the pace. So yeah, if there was like a race mode HUD, that would be like awesome.
I like Dan Pedrosa came in with a nice comment, and I do agree. That was what I'm aiming at, is like a learning tool. It can be used as a learning tool, and that was one of the things. Like I really am rooting for Optimum as a new team. Sorry, Anna, but like because they're new, I like. Oh, cool! There's a new team, and they're kind
Yeah,
of like the startup. All right, like go get them is what I'm feeling. Like
yeah,
great.
yeah,
And there's a part of me that's like, oh, just download it and go look and see what's happening here. Because if you don't understand how big of a difference is without that like logical, just here it is, there's the numbers, you might
yeah.
not get it as much. And like how quickly that they could be like, oh, okay, now we get it. And so that's where that feedback I think would be great. All right. So that's zero LTTT. Wow, we did a deep dive there.
Yeah.
We opened up the
Jeez.
Pandora's box of that.
Oh
Zwift
no.
Grand Prix, you got to take this on tomorrow, and you put this. How was the team elimination format? Well, how do you think it went, Anna? Because are you racing this tomorrow?
I am racing this tomorrow.
Oh man, did you watch the
So
coverage?
I watched a small amount. I've been on holiday. I'm on such holiday mode. Like total side here, as I was like, I had to drop my daughter off with her carer yesterday morning. I was supposed to drop her off at like a certain time. And I looked at the time, I was like, whoa, I'm going to be like 2 hours late. Um, so I'm in like holiday mode and haven't been on like devices much, but I just wanted to get a feel for you as to like across, not so much a rundown of how the race went, but again, like it's a new format. Where do you rank that as kind of the new formats we've had with Zwift Grand Prix? Like, was it better, worse? Did it work well? Did it make sense? Because the risk, so like I didn't see how it all finished up. the risk I see for, like, say, the women's race is you've got quite a dominant team with Wahoo Nicole. And, like, I would see that they might just want to finish the race early and eliminate everyone. And I was like, I wonder if how high that possibility is, and that would not be a good outcome, I would say.
Yeah, and that's one thing where I'm wondering if a little bit of a rule change, or just because this is a really cool format in my opinion. Like, I really enjoyed this format. I wasn't sure I was going to, but there was a little inkling in the back of my head while we were in pre-productions and I was looking at this and we're talking out about it, and then we kind of do this, we do a lot of stuff prior to the broadcast to figure out how this is going to play out. And all I was focused on was that first. So for those that don't know, man, we should probably give a quick explanation. Is in the Zwift Grand Prix right now, in the final round, team elimination format, you have to have, your team has to have a rider in a decreasing number of slots over banners after lap 1, and this is on Watopia forward hilly route. And so on the first lap, no eliminations. On the second lap over the top of the KOM, you have to have in your team one rider in the top 9. If you have one rider in the top 9, you go through the next banner, which is the sprint banner, top 8, one rider, or else your team is eliminated. So 9, if you're not in the top 9 with just one rider, your team's eliminated. Top 8, and so on, all the way through until you actually hit the finish line. And if in the last elimination, in the top, I think 4 it is, if it's just WLC riders, then the race is over, right? And so,
yeah.
Here's one thing I really that was in the back of my head that I think makes this really exciting, is that this race can get reset over and over again. And if the level is high enough across the board, maybe it's more slots. I don't know about 9, starting with 9, maybe lower. But if the level is high enough across the board, and you have riders that can play certain roles, like on the KOM forward, you have everyone has a Kolchinsky, a Langham, etc. Then all of them are battling, like almost segment battle points in some way, like battling for that spot to keep them in, and then everybody else can sit back a little bit, not waste that effort, and then next thing you know, a whole new race starts to develop on the downhill of the reverse KOM, of that KOM. And I think that's a really compelling format if we can get the temperances of it, though, to like nail it just right, are really, I think, really difficult. But at the same time, that reset nature, we did kind of see it in the men's race. The race did get away from everybody a little bit, but we saw some resets where all of a sudden it was like one team Abus Lacole, they were the perfect example, because WLC actually did, Wahoo Lacole actually did stack like 3 or 4 riders in the first top 9, and that ended up eliminating Next Esports, who is the top, literally number 1 coming in. They ended up falling to 3rd place for the whole overall, actually, because they got eliminated immediately because of this, because WLC stacked it. And so, and so I kind of like that whole, a lot on the line. Now, the ability for the race to end early and maybe needing a couple more spots so that like teams can place a rider a little bit easier, at least, and then separating the banners a little bit more than which course you're using. Those are just some little feedbacks, but otherwise that ability for the rest of the team to be able to sit back and allow their riders, or a couple of the riders, to play that role on this specific banner, trust them, and then if it works out, they can employ an amazing tactic, and they can even have that set up and be calling on the fly for the rest of the race at different banners about how they're going to counter. You could end up with like super tactics where people are super, super fresh by the end of the race and still involved, because one rider can keep you in, or a couple riders can keep you in.
Yeah, I think it's like looking at the notes of it, I think I'm excited to race it. Let's see how it goes. I think it really, which I always enjoy, I think it really benefits a team that has strong riders across the board. So again, like if you've got a champion rider and the team isn't so strong, that champion rider basically will make the break, and they're just going to have to go for everything. So I don't know if that's what really happened with Next, is that's risky, because if you've only got one rider and it's a front group of 10, and another team that's got like 3 riders in there, like they're just benefited. So I think it's good because it advantages a strong team, which is I think what they're kind of trying to do here, like make it a bit more of a team effort rather than, what we used to have in the scratch races, which was basically you just needed a superstar to go win every race, and then that was all good.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you haven't watched it all the way back, it was really exciting how it ended up playing in the at the back end of the race, actually, between WLC, Abus Lacole, really interesting. And then there was also some teams that weren't quite as involved in the racing throughout the entirety of the season, really putting their name back on the board. Coalition Alpha had an amazing ride, actually, and ended up qualifying, and they were right on the bubble with Movistar. And so that was a battle that you watched play out to get into the grand finals. So it was really
it's
cool.
The top 5 now go through to the grand final, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, we're sitting 6th, I think. Ooh. 2 points behind 5th, maybe. It's going to be tight.
This is it. This is the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah, Socks for Watts, I think, is a couple of points ahead of us. So it's it's going to be an all-out battle.
You bringing the ringers? You bringing the ringers tomorrow? Oh man!
You can't just. It's not like Community where you can just ring up a person. It's like go do your Zada test, make sure your power numbers are fine, get your scales and your weights.
Gotcha.
And,
well, you've been resting after your. You've been resting after your Everesting. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'll say. Oh, but Megan Rathwell will be racing. She has not raced like Premier Division in a long time. So I am super excited because I love racing with Megan. It's just, she keeps it really enjoyable. So it's
that's going to be fun. I've always liked commentating because on her efforts, because she's really just throws it all out there. So tends to be one who takes risks. So that'll be fun to see. That'll be super fun to see. I think you got one number wrong in this next section here. I didn't say it in the pre-productions. Oh. Yeah, there's one number wrong in there. Oh man, let's talk.
That's why I was like, whoa.
Because I was like, why is she responding that way? What are we talking about? We're talking about Peak Zwift. So far, from what has been seen, I was way under, and good. I'm glad. Zwift were probably like, Nathan, why? You really don't think that much of us? Jeez, because I predicted around 36,000. And what was your prediction? Was like 2,000 more than that? I
42. I think I was like 42. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I could be the closest.
You could be. Actually, when I saw this, I was like, oh man, Anna's going to be rubbing this one in. So far we've seen a little bit over 40,000. A little bit over 40,000 for Peak Zwift. If you want to see more about that, head on over to GP Llama. He did a video recently on the Peak Zwift predictions that we did have here on the podcast. And Simon Schofield made a guest appearance alongside Eric Schlange, Llama, myself, and Anna for the predictions. We got a little battle going on. From the chatter I have amongst everybody with this, it sounds like Llama and Eric seem to think that this is it. That, like, nope, it's been set. I don't know. In the past, it has been the last Tuesday, I think, of the month of January. I think usually, but I'm not absolutely positive on that. A lot of people, I think, toward the end of January will jump on, but we'll see. I might be wrong. Maybe the Tour de Zwift being launched when it was, really brought a lot of people in, and it's like the middle of the Tour de Zwift. You get a ton of participation. Maybe this past Tuesday. It's usually always 6 p.m. Tuesday night. UK time is usually when we hit this number, the Peak Zwift number, in January sometime of every year, unless you're locked down from a pandemic. So that was
ask. I mean, does this concern us? I mean, I know there was a pandemic, but is it concerning that it's reduced the last 2 years? Like, I'd understand a reduction last year because we're out of lockdowns and what have you. I mean, is this concerning that it's gone down this year, which I would consider more of a normal year? And are we seeing that? I mean, am I going way too deep here? But are we seeing the effects of inflation? Are we seeing people going to other platforms? Is this number something to worry about?
This is a take I think I've also seen from some of the partners as well. Is that, and I agree with this take on it, is that we got a boost from in numbers when it comes to users from the pandemic that got Zwift just a lot of free marketing. Like there was just a ton of like, hey, this is a unnatural, wouldn't usually see boost in users, and that if it completely fell off and went back to where it was pre-pandemic, I'd be like, yes. But I think we're like instead seeing a little bit more of the, like, I think we had hangover or hangover from the pandemic. We had hangover from the pandemic.
We've all got hangover.
But that kept some people and some unnatural growth. It was still numbers that were there from that. And now I think it's leveling out to where it would be plus a little bit. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so like this is more the natural growth numbers with a little boost in the middle of it. And so instead of being concerned, I think at least from the way that, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat this, I guess 36,000. Okay, guys, like but I really do think that this is more along the lines of these are the numbers and the natural growth you would see without some sort of worldwide thing that brings everybody inside and you can't go outside and exercise like that. And that we'll see maybe a steady growth from here. I don't think people are going to other platforms. The inflation may be a thing though. That may be a thing.
So I don't want to like put my anecdotal evidence across the board, but I would definitely say inflation it's played a part in our household, because one of the first things I did was went through all our subscriptions and I was like, oh my God, like, because you don't really review what you're paying until you kind of like, maybe I should.
So which ones did you get rid of? I want to know.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Zwift for my husband was one of them, because I was like, dude, you haven't been on your indoor trainer in like 2 years. You weren't even going on your trainer in the pandemic. Like, are you sure you still want the subscription? But because he was one of the beta testers and he's got a really small Zwift ID number, he's like, I don't want to cancel it because then I won't have my like, I was like, I think you still will. And he's like, okay, you can cancel it. So I was like, okay.
You guys were paid $15 a month for a really small Zwift ID number. The things that we will pay
Tell
for.
me. I know.
Oh my gosh.
So I'd say that would probably be a part, like maybe that first year when things opened up again, people just were paying subscriptions because they just kept rolling over. And then they went, oh, actually, I haven't been on that trainer, so I might cancel that. So yeah, one thing I do want to talk about in an upcoming show, sorry, complete segue, but it made me think about it, is a son of a friend of mine is really, really into technology. And when I showed him Zwift, he's only 10 years old, and it's kind of good to get fresh eyes. And he looked at Zwift and was like, oh my gosh, that's so rad. Like, that's really cool. They should totally make that VR. And I was like, okay. So anyway, for a different show, but I was like, I wonder as that advances, how much that's going to enter into a system. Because imagine.
I am getting a lot of VR ads. I can show videos, I think, of Zwift VR. I think I can show you.
Okay, let's do that. We'll do that another time. Show where we talk about it.
I got to get the okay of that because it was publicly shown. Like, you know, I have videos of me riding Zwift VR at some of the KOM challenges we did in bike shops early on.
Oh, yeah.
Actually. And so,
could you imagine, like, if you had a headset that didn't sweat too much and you, like, looked and your teammate, you saw them literally next to you. Like, that is a whole different experience. Anyway, for a different show, but I just wanted to mention that as well.
Yeah, you were really going all over the place. We showed up not thinking there was going to be much going on to this week. And next thing you know, we're, 45 minutes into the show. Oh, we've nonstop talking here. Here we go.
We need to get Carolyn on. Carolyn on.
BamBam. It's BamBam time from the herd. Absolutely love it. And I'm excited about this one because, it's these kind of people in the community that make up the community. So I'm going to welcome to the program real quickly here, Caroline Sale, a.k.a. BamBam from Team Herd. Caroline, welcome to the Wrap. It's great to have you here.
Hi, nice to talk to you. Hi, hello.
Real quickly, Caroline, where are you at in the world right now?
I'm in Cambridge in the UK. I live just outside Cambridge.
Gotcha.
It's a sleepy little village with not a lot happening.
Awesome. Very great. Well, there's a whole lot happening there in somebody's mind. Caroline Sale's written some of the best comedy, I think, on the Zwift ZRL experience. She writes a little bit for Zwift Insider, as well as obviously our Facebook groups, in order to keep us all entertained. I'm just going to read I love the Zwift Insider description. Caroline Sale first dusted off her bike back in the gloomy days of lockdown, and after remembering how it worked, her bike, found she liked it. She soon discovered racing with the herd of penguins, and due to her extremely short hair with a teeny tiny ponytail on top, BamBam was born. If you don't know who BamBam is, it's from a cartoon in America, actually, the Flintstones. Absolutely love that reference here. Since then, BamBam has become El Capitano of the herd of fairy penguins, a group of very small pingus. I love that. Well, because now is that go reference to Pingu? Is that actually a reference to Pingu? Because I've got children, so
Yeah.
and that she absolutely adores. Together, along with her beautiful chums, the Yellow Eye Pingus, they have many adventures. That gives you a little bit of a taste of the writing. I feel like I'm like jumping into a children's book, Anna, for this.
Have you seen the chat? It's like I quickly looked over. I was like, whoa, there's just like images of penguins everywhere. And Carolyn, your friends in the chat are saying, watch out for the squirrel next to you. So we assure you he is friendly. But before we
he's extra close. He's extra close today, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
Watch out,
No, cool,
Scotty. I think Scotty likes you, Caroline.
So
yeah,
do we
well,
want
it's
to
not 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not having anything to do with a squirrel, so.
Nice. So for those people who haven't been on the WTRL Facebook page, and I know we showed a meme with Martin last week, and we talked about it, where, you know, the WTRL Facebook page is kind of the Shadowlands off to the corner. I would call Carolyn the like bright spark in those Shadowlands. So if you need like a good laugh, I'm going to read out some of this. So this is a recon Carolyn did back in November last year for the Two Bridges loop. So here we go. I thought I'd share my recon on Two Bridges loop for the DCATs among this group. 1, wow, that's a fast start. Breathe. 2, thank God, a power up. Can I actually do something with this? 3, concentrate, it's a push. 4, the S's, we're rolling. How many were there? Crap, how many were there? 5, is this the small bump they were referring to? This must be the small bump they were referring to. I can do this. 6, okay, hanging on, downhill, breathe, get ready. 7, go. 8, swearing. 9, okay, is it over? Can I stop now? 10, relax, settle. Where did the group go? 11, oh, this is the small bump they were referring to. Why are people overtaking me? Bloody sandbaggers, small bump my ass. 12, what do you mean I'm doing this 4 more times? And then I love this bit at the end, actually. Also, I just want to address the elephant in the room. There are 3 bridges on this route. There is actually an ongoing argument in the land of bridges as to which is one of the 3 is not included in the race. I mean, it's just gold, Carolyn. I mean, the first question I had, well, first off, before we go into how are you writing these witty things, are you an author, is let's hear your origin story. Let's hear your origin story of Zwift. Let's get a feeling for who you are.
Okay, so, well, as you said, I discovered Zwift. I'm actually a swimmer. I was a swimmer in my background and getting fit for 50, which was a few years back now. I decided to take up swimming again. And then something happened. I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, but it shut the pools. And I was in a serious problem. So I had to dust off my bike and take up cycling. And it started through going outside, through lockdown. And I discovered a Facebook group called FLAB, which stands for Fat Lad at the Back. And they make, I probably shouldn't advertise, other brands are available, but they make clothes for slightly larger people to be able to get out and cycle comfortably. You know, we haven't got to wear our Endura t-shirts up, jerseys up here, like, you know, like, because it's so tiny. Yeah, so I rode with Flab and they went indoors. And I was following them on Facebook and I started doing their social rides. And one of their social rides had this very lovely lady called Ellie, who I am indebted to. She's German and she rode with the Emps. the Emperor Penguins, and she said they just won the playoffs, actually, when they still did the playoff system, and they just won. And I was like, wow, that's incredible, and sounds fantastic. And she went into all the detail, and I was like, I want a piece of that. Because I think that if you've ever done anything competitive, it's always there lurking within you, the sort of need to feed, if you like. And I had it. And so I joined the herd. She put me in contact with them, and I got put into the fairy penguin team, and I loved it. And I can remember the very first race being possibly feeling as sick as I did before this podcast started. I've actually got a penguin sitting over here, so we've got a real life meetup about to happen. And Dutchland is here from Dutchland, strangely. And I said to her, I'm going to vomit. I think I'm actually going to vomit before this starts. And it's just like ZRL racing, really.
The rap and ZRL racing, same thing. They're the same thing.
I did say to Carolyn during the week, I was like, if you get more nervous before this podcast than you do for a ZRL race, you're too nervous. So hopefully you're all good. But that's, I mean, I love those kind of origin stories where you sort of find your way into some Zwift racing and then it kind of just ends up taking over your life and being this awesome, and the fact that you've got a fellow herd member sitting with you in real life, it's amazing. So thanks for that origin story, Caroline. I guess I want to know, how did you come about, writing these posts? Because that Facebook page can be scary to like put yourself out there and I started putting my like fashion posts on there, and man, I got a lot of hate, right? So I know it's not a small thing to kind of
Sorry, you thought the current Tour de Zwift was worthy of a 5, and I'm like, whoa! I'm going with a 1 because I'm looking at my backs for an hour, and I'm like, that is not pretty. So no, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So how did I come to the writing? Well, that's just my brain. It's a bit, this woman said to me once, when I first started Zwifting, I did a sort of charity race, and I had my hair, because I've got like the Mohican, because BamBam is a goddess, if you've ever seen her on Zwift. I mean, like, I love her a little bit. The only person I love a little bit more than BamBam is possibly Christine Kolchinsky. She does make me go a little bit weak at the knees when she's riding. So, and this woman once said to me, she said, I must change my hair back to normal. I did this for fun. And I was like, well, that is my hair, that avatar. That's how I ride. So I was just like, I'm going to call her. She needs a name. And then we were talking, because I was still Caroline then, riding as Caroline, and I created BamBam. So my brain is making these moments up. This is not, I'm a writer. This is just what's happening inside my head. All the time.
Let's take a look real quick here at what you're talking about exactly. This is BamBam.
Oh.
This is the epic goddess that you're talking about here. Caroline Sale / BamBam. I mean, this kit too. Look at the this is fashion to the highest level right now. The all white with those shoes
I'm not giving that a 10.
Like what? Kit? Are you kidding me? Like, this is crazy.
You don't have that kit?
What is it?
You don't have that kit? You get that
kit when you're... Look, you should see her. You don't have that kit? Like, come on.
No, actually, I had that. I actually raced the other day, and I just leveled up. And sometimes when you level up, there's a little glitch. So, when you level up and you perhaps get 3 different kits, and it's happened twice now, and I leveled up and I went to race and I got that kit again, and I was like, thank you God. So there I am, the only person in this race in this top to toe white, looking like that. What? And I was like, I don't care.
Is that a glitch kit?
Yeah.
It's a glitch kit. I have never seen that before.
Whoa! Wait,
did you know that, Nathan?
No, maybe I seen it a long time ago, and it's just like something's like faintly registering like a dream that I was in. Of course, it's being called Vanilla Ice in chat. Somebody just called it Vanilla Ice. Like, wait a second.
I've won that and called myself Vanilla Ice as well when I've ridden as Vanilla Ice. She's one of my characters.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I've seen the glitch Tron. I've seen the white Tron, but I have not seen the glitch.
Okay, so we are a podcast as well. So let's just, if you want to see this, you have to go to zwiftinsider.com/author/see sale, and you will see the Vanilla Ice kit. It's also, I mean, can you give us a trade secret here? Like, how are you getting this? Like, what's the process? Because this thing is amazing.
No, I was on I just went into level 46, which gave me 3 kits simultaneously, and that's when the glitch occurred, and I just appeared magically in white and even more.
Oh man, it's like so exclusive. Like you have to be maybe going into a level that's getting. Sorry,
you've got to be Carolyn.
I'm like gonna, man, I'm so into the fashion now. I'm like trying to hack into how do I get this Zwift ID? How do I get Caroline's Zwift ID?
Oh my gosh, that is epic. I'll put that on my socials later so that everyone can see that Vanilla Ice kit. That is, I mean, that's getting close to a 10 out of 10. And I mean, not many kits go 10 out of 10. So
we haven't had a 10 out of 10, I don't think, ever, have we?
No, the retro kit's 9, and that's my favorite kit. And this one, it's like the exclusivity that you have to be only Carolyn in Zwift makes it like BamBam. Sorry,
BamBam.
Wow.
See, now BamBam's alter ego turns into Vanilla Ice at a certain moment. She goes like, you know, this is like Super Saiyan mode or something. I mean, this is what's happened. All of a sudden, you think she's just this nice Caroline Sale who's riding around as BamBam, and boom, takes everybody's jerseys. Zero. You think, oh yeah, no big deal. Writes this comedy, and then Vanilla Ice shows up. So okay, DCAT riding in Zwift. That's a good little segue here because, you know, there's a lot of opinions out there about, you know, on a little bit more serious note of your experience of ZRL. You know, there's comedy, and all comedy is a critique. Like, that's just like, that's a reality. It's comedians are some of the best truth seekers in the world, and that's what makes us laugh a lot of times, at least good comedy. And I think that's what people are hitting on, is their relation to what you're speaking the truth in some ways about what a DCAT rider's experience is and making a great joke about it. So there's a couple of different things that have come up around ZRL with, you know, what do you think of longer courses? Should these do less laps? How enjoyable is it to race in ZRL? You know, these kinds are the questions that you're hitting just so great to make us have a laugh about.
Yeah, well, so there's a couple of things there. I love Cy Bradley. Can I just say that out, publicly?
Who doesn't love a Cy Bradley? I mean,
I know, and but every week. So one of my closest Swifting chums is Brittany Crinkle Chips, and she rides for the Yellow Eyes, and she's Brittany because she has no hair. I think you'll know where we're going. Anyway, but we talk about it regularly, and we watch Cy recons because we do take our racing seriously in DCAT. You know, we don't just rock up on the day and sort of poodle around. We've done our recons. I was a huge advocate of the bike change in DCAT on Chain Chomper because it changes everything for a DCAT rider. Unfortunately, I advocated it so much, everybody beat me. But that's a different story. But Cy goes, and when you're coming up here as a kicker, watch for the kicker or attack on the kicker, or there's just a slight bump. And they're not those things in the DCAT world. They have a different word, and it's hill. And so I wanted to just address what it's like in DCAT racing for us when, you know, and like you read out that section on the 3 bridges loop, that you go, oh, that must have been it. And then you come around the corner and there's the hilly com and you're like, no. So I wanted to address that in a way that we see it. That's how we see it, And yes, comedy is an exaggeration. As for the other post that I put up before Christmas, if we want to talk about that, the Richmond longer distances. I mean, first of all, I was absolutely gobsmacked that it got the reaction that it did. I had asked.
Okay, give us a setting. What are we talking about here exactly for viewers? And I'm a little lost too as well. So help us out here.
All right. So as well as my sort of funny, race recons and reports, Richmond for DCATs had been really tough. We had to do 4 laps, and we had some riders that were out there for sort of an hour and 45 minutes, hour and 50. That's a long old ride, and people were sort of like, well, you can choose your team. Well, you can't if you're a small team. You've got what you've got to work with. So, and they want to race. We all want to race. So we're like, come on, we can do this. So I checked with the Yellow Eyes and my own team, the Fairy Penguins, and we all said, yeah, it was tough. So I decided to go public with my views about it. And I wrote a post and I asked WTRL Facebook group to treat it in an adult fashion, because it can always get a bit heated on there and opinionated. So I asked them to be mature about it. And what did people think? And I was truly gobsmacked, by the fact that it got over 400 likes and over 300 comments. I actually turned it off in the end because it got a bit cyclical, and I felt what had been said needed to be said. But it was the amount of love that came from it for what I had said about the length for DCATs.
Yeah, I know Nathan and I wanted you on the show, one, because your posts are hilarious, but it was also that post that kind of, because Nathan and I talked about it after Richmond on the show, and we both agreed with you and what you'd said, but we are always well aware that we're not DCAT riders, so there's no point in sort of talking on your behalf because that's not fair. So I think, looking at this round, it looks as though WTRL may have taken that huge amount of feedback that came through on board, because it looks as though, the D racing is a bit more akin to what you were saying, like you're not doing these crazy lengths. But what, I guess, a bit of insight from you is, what is it like racing as a DCAT rider on Zwift? Because I know, I have raced D before, just coming back through from pregnancies and it doesn't matter what category you're in, it is ruthlessly competitive. And I know that you mentioned that before, that you're not turning up to just have a little, fun rolling around Watopia. Like, it's competitive. So give us some insight into DCAT, because I think it's just the same as ACAT.
Well, it is to a certain extent the same as ACAT. I did make some notes while you were talking about a TTT. And you said, hey, we went with no numbers. And I was like, what? She went with no numbers? Oh my God. In the Fairy Penguins, we've banned numbers. And I actually did a recon about it, and I'll read you a little bit. So I started off with, I used to do the chart, the de-essing chart that someone very clever makes, and they all look at it and goes, and Manon goes, Disco Dutchland. I apologise. Oh, here's your real name. Sorry, lovely. She goes, I normally sweep. Why can't I just sweep? I like sweeping. Okay, says BamBam. But if we use the chart, we can see how to ride this TTT. It's flat. That's in our favour. Janaru. Flat, but is it? Now, what about that little kicker? Right, okay, let's not worry about the pretty chart. Let's focus on changeovers. Toblerone, do we have numbers? Other teams have numbers. I'd like numbers. BamBam, numbers. Yes, numbers are good. Toblerone, you be 1. Toblerone, but what if I'm not at position 1? BamBam, then 2 becomes 1 and you become 5. That was a little Spice Girl reference there. Thank you. Raquel, I think we're all choosing to ignore your brilliance. Stop snorting and get on with it. Toblerone, but I'm not 1? No. Raquel will be 1 when you're 5. but surely I'm 2. According to the chart, I'm at 2. No, we're not using the chart. We're using numbers. That's decat riding.
What I absolutely love is that one of your members is named after chocolate. Like that's the best.
Right.
Toblerone. Oh my gosh! And the little, what's coming through is the same competitive spirit with a little bit more, I don't know, fun behind it, because it's almost, I feel like so ACAT men are, I mean, we have this kind of like avoidant thing that's going on, and you guys just like where we have like a lot of passive aggressiveness that'll kind of happen in the moments of like, and you guys just have fun with it at the same time, while obviously really caring about everything that's going on there. I love the spirit that's coming to the racing from your team. It's absolutely awesome to hear, and I think it's also a little bit of a herd thing. The herd has its own culture. I mean, you guys show up to any space, and next thing everyone's saying moo. So, I mean, there's obviously some sort of a culture that has a comedy streak to it here as well, Caroline.
Yeah, but we do take it seriously. The fair is, Lordy knows how, because they're very good, actually, is why this has happened. Are top of their league at the moment. So we went out first in the TTT on Tuesday, and I had a slight technical hitch, so I then took over just de-essing on the moment, and they rode with 5. And Disco, who my recent story is about, she's amazing. She's absolutely incredible as a person. And 10 years ago, she actually did have life-saving surgery. So when I write in this latest story about her having life-saving surgery, it's true. They didn't turn her into an android, which is the theme of the story. But, she's incredible as a result of it. And she said she was our weakest rider, but she wasn't, because she held the team together. We worked around her all the way. Are you okay, Disco? We're going. Shall we go? Say when. And, and she said when. And the rest of the team had worked with her. She said when. They went, and we beat AEO. Sorry, AEO. Probably shouldn't say that. But we beat them by 0.383. 0.383, and we're like, that's how competitive we are. The whooping on the headphones afterwards was phenomenal.
It's
Caroline, I so agree with you. I mean, we had 2 riders come on our team this week. We had kind of our big gun couldn't make it, so we got Christy Tracy. And, Dave referred to her as the zombie because she's come back from death so many times. I mean, she's been hit by cars, multiple surgeries, like really hard, like mental battle to bring herself back up to fitness. And like you say there, she was not the weak link. I was the weak link in this race, and I was watching her. And the reason I didn't drop is because I'm like, she has come through like hell to get here, and she is riding so hard. And it's things like that inspire the whole team around them to come through and do these amazing performances. And you kind of don't have that if, you're sort of just got this team of absolute stars who are kind of just all cranking and you're all winning. And I think that's, Nathan, where you can kind of get a bit of that passive aggressiveness, because there's not that sort of rallying around this rider who has got this story. And I think that's kind of what, from reading that race report you did, and I think you've put it on Facebook now, so I would urge everyone to go have a read. I mean, you can read between the lines on that something has happened to Disco, right? The way you've done it is comedic, but there's an insightful story there. And I love that you're bringing that out, and kind of just the chat's coming in is that you guys are just making this so fun. And I think I'm coming out of this conversation being like, man, this should be fun. Like, you should be nervous and you should want to do well, but this should be a laugh and a good time along the way.
Yeah, definitely. And but the stories come from, have you ever tried to describe Zwift to a non-Zwifter? Because then you end up like, well, and we all race together, and it sounds like some sort of mission. And then my son, who is a gamer, goes, "Oh, it's just World of Warcraft on bikes," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "I don't think it is." And he's like, "Yeah, we all get together and we go raiding, and we're all on Discord and we're talking to each other. So yes, it is, Mum." So that was where the sort of, you asked earlier, where did it come from? Well, that's where the kind of
heard that. I can't believe I just heard that, because that is literally how I explain Zwift to people. Caroline, that is literally, I'll be like, "Oh, you know World of Warcraft? Well, it's just kind of like that on bikes." The fact that you just said that is so amazing, actually. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like, I just want to say that what's DCAT riding? What I just heard as far as racing goes, what I just heard is like, you have all of the best parts of everything to do with Zwift racing, or what is racing, because it's like extremely aggressively competitive, the best, camaraderie that you could possibly have next to these amazing real life behind the avatars of what it is to the human condition story. Like, that all just came through in the Caroline Sale interview from BamBam. Like, I absolutely love what you brought to the table here. Not what I was expecting, Caroline, at all coming into this, that you would bring in every moment that you could possibly have that makes what's great about sport. It's so great to hear from, really, it's one of the best, I think, interviews we've had.
Oh, thank you.
So, okay, what's going on? What's next? I mean, what's next for Caroline? Are we going to see some more write-ups? And how's the season going for you? You got big hopes for the season?
Well, I say the Fairies are sitting top of the league, so we're sort of like preening our wings at the moment and flapping greatly. We're hoping to finally seal the crown. It's the three herd teams ride in our particular league: the Emperors and the Yellow Eyes and the Fairies, and I love them, all of them. On a Tuesday we get a little bit, but we still actually love each other. And the Emps, they were phenomenal, and now they've changed and shifted, and then the Yellow Eyes had their turn, and now we'd like to think it's the Fairies' turn. But who knows?
Which division are you in? Which division are you in for
We ride in Central D1.
Central D1, gotcha.
You've also seen me, Nathan.
Currently, I'm looking.
But I also ride with a Bilby, and you have commentated on me and gone, "Hey, that's BamBam. She's ridden twice today in the finals last year." You called me awesome, so I'm taking that. Thank you.
Aeonian Divas, right on your heels. What's up, Demons? Herd of Yellow-Eyed Penguins, the Herd of Emperor Penguins. That's the top 5 right now, with the Fairies on the top. 2 wins. Oh, boy. Loving it. This is good stuff. Maybe we need to get some coverage of this, because we are covering Women's Central exclusively all the way through the rest of the season. And the D category are already out there, Caroline. Be on the watch out. BamBam. You better show up with some vanilla ice or something better, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep my vanilla ice kit especially.
There we go.
Oh.
This has been
great. Awesome.
Really great.
Yeah, I've loved it. Thanks, Caroline. And I hope your all the nerves dissipated for you and you've had a good experience on the Wrap podcast. Maybe you can write a write-up of your experience coming through a podcast if it was more or less scary than racing. And so are you is it Dutchland? Are you guys, or Deutschland? Are you guys going out for a ride today, or riding next to each other indoors?
Dutchland. It's the Netherlands, Dutchland.
Oh,
no, we're meeting on Saturday. We've got Clouds is coming, and Janaroo, and then Brittany Crinkle Chips is coming, and we're having a big penguin meetup, and there'll probably be far too much food consumed, but what the heck.
Don't let it affect your racing next week.
Yeah, gotta stay on top of the table. Oh.
Yeah, that's true. I better keep, as captain, as El Capitano, I better keep an eye on them.
Awesome. Caroline, it's so great having you on. Really, really appreciate it. Everybody go check out the Zwift Insider articles, and we'll have you. I have a feeling this is going to be a segment maybe here and there for the D category shout outs. But Caroline, thanks a lot for jumping on with us.
It's been a pleasure. Take care. Thank you.
Yeah, bye. Oh man, so awesome. That was absolutely
good.
great. So good. Anna, what a pickup. I mean, you sent it over. All right, Caroline Sales coming out. I was like, whew, okay, let's see what happens with this. And that was some of the best insights for Zwift racing I think you could possibly get. Extremely relatable, I think, is one of the main takeaways.
Yeah, you're always nervous when you have someone come on a show because we're messaging back and forth. And I think originally she thought it was just audio, and then she's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be on video. Oh no. And I was like, don't worry about it. Like, you'll be fine. And you kind of have that like, oh no, like I hope her, like what she's been doing with her write-ups can come across in this format. And it totally has. Like, she just spoke so honestly and openly. And yeah, and I think two bits came away for me. One is that, you know, the DCATs are competitive. So you go to a start line in whatever category, you wanna win and do the best for your team. But the other part that came through, which I think we can all take a little bit of learning from, is you've just got to keep it so fun. Like it is just some online racing at the end, and she just keeps it lighthearted, and the team just seem to really enjoy themselves. And obviously it's paying off in the results.
How are we going to top that fashion now? That's the question. As we segue into the closing comments, always in the podcast, like we got to see Vanilla Ice, and now we like what? There is no more fashion show. It's just over. It's just like how. Anyways,
so that's the second Zwift glitch kit I've seen, and I gave the first one like a 9 out of 10. It was in some race I was producing for Oz Cycling. And I pulled it onto the show. It was a glitch where she was just in all hot pink. And it was no kit. There's no kit you can get that is that. And this is the same. I mean, I put these two at the exclusivity level is so high. And out of all the people it could have gone to on Zwift, Carolyn is probably the best person that got this. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I am extremely jealous that she has got that kit. I mean, I feel like I'm the queen of fashion and I can't even get this, and it's making it like, I want to give it a 10 out of 10, but I'm so destroyed that this is not available to me. So yeah, like phenomenal. I'm going to put that on my socials later. Yeah, phenomenal kit, but we will segue into the kits that I did choose. But yeah, it does take all the shine off the kits I chose for this week with that one that we saw.
Pretty amazing.
BamBams.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I love it that she was able to bring that in. All right, well, let's jump right into the fashion here before we get going. And jersey pick of the week, the Yorkshire jersey.
Yeah.
This is courtesy of Alejandro Malilla, I think it is, that you were able to throw this in. Give me a little bit of an update on this here for those that are wondering about it.
Yeah, this is Alejandro Malaya, who I believe will be watching the show right now, but he sent this to me on InstaChat, I think, is one of his favorite jerseys. And I said I would feature it because I do like it. This was part of the when the Yorkshire course got released and you could go and ride it and unlock this jersey. And it does look really cool. He might have to tell me if this was actually part of the World Champs when it was in Yorkshire. If you could actually get this IRL, I'm not sure if you could, but it's got the flag of Great Britain just in like a sort of navy blue, but with one of the lines being the rainbow colors of the rainbow jersey for the World Champs. So really nice detailing there. I love myself some blue shorts, and these are in that, so yeah, like I said, deep navy blue color. Just really clean kit, paired really nicely with the white socks there. It looks good. I like it. I'd give this, maybe like a solid 7 out of 10 for this one, just with the clean lines there.
Yeah, I'd go 7.5. I that's pushing, just the clean lines for sure. Match it with those white socks and the white shoes. Really, really well done there, actually. And then what's the next one? I've got a couple of things here. It looks like the garage pick. You're actually going with the Cadence Tri TT bike. I'm assuming that's because it's TT week.
Yeah, so you can see here I'm warming up, which is when I do a lot of my fashion in the field stuff, and I've got a few jerseys I picked from this warm-up ride. But yeah, I picked So I always thought the Canyon was the fastest TT bike. And then I saw someone mention this CADX, and I went on Zwift Insider. And this one's actually significantly faster and was the best choice for the course we had this week, purely because of that Watopia KOM. Should we call it a little, what did she call it?
A bump? A bump?
Is it a bump? A little bump there in the TT. And I just also love how this bike looks, just with the weight down the bottom. There's no like top tube part, just the down tube going down. Looks really slick. And then with that kind of gray smokiness, I just put this bike on in the garage. It's pretty expensive, like 1.1 million drops. So I'm really waiting for Zwift to enable a bit of a garage sale, because I need some more drops for me to get some other stuff. But yeah, this one looks slick.
Yeah, on the drops point, this is something that comes up, every week we have a little bit of a calm down moment. How are you feeling about drops? I'm just wondering, like, how are you feeling about drops lately? Because I just ticked over 40 million and I'm not spending them. I'm just not. I have this moment all the time where I'm like, I'm just going to buy everything with my foot. And then I'm like, but I feel like sometime in the future, my drops are going to be worth something so much more to me than what I currently can do with them. And I'm going to be kicking myself for spending 40 million. I feel like there's like a, speaking of World of Warcraft, like there's a marketplace in World of Warcraft that you can go and do things in that is really cool, actually. You can go and there's an entire, trade that's happening in this public auction space that's amazing, that tons of people play games in and do stuff with, and there's a whole market. And whatever, I'm not asking for that, but I have this like, I wish there was something more I could do with this.
Yeah, so I think this ties so closely to what I said is the feature I want most, which is a better garage. Like, the better garage means you want to spend drops on stuff. So it took me a lot to go buy this bike because I don't want to clutter up my garage anymore with all this stuff. And so, I think one thing, there's one part where you can just get better gear, but then you also don't want to really disincentivize riders who don't have the drops to buy the gear, and it's going to make them faster in game, especially if they're racing. But what they could start to do is you could use some drops to customize your bike in a aesthetic way. Like, hey, this bike, like that paint job I showed last week, the retro paint job. If I was paying drops for that, I would probably do that. Like, if I could paint job any bike that I chose to look cool with a kit, I would use drops on that. So, and that doesn't make me faster. I just aesthetically look better.
Like, super cool. Yeah. Aesthetics. Super cool. Like, you stand out because you've been earning these drops. Like, I'm riding with the pace partner because it's upping my drops at 2.5 because I'm really aiming at doing this exclusive thing that shows that I'm like an Uber Zwifter. Like, that's, yeah.
And then
totally.
Imagine your commentary in a race where you're like, ooh, they have spent like serious drops on that paint job. That is like, kudos to them. That looks really great.
Yeah, the grind has to be worth something. I agree. Like, and I've said this about, again, for some reason World of Warcraft keeps on coming up today, but the Bronze Dragon or there's different things. Like, once you could ride dragons in World of Warcraft and you got the Bronze Dragon, it was like, that person, they just showed up and you literally fly in on, and it was like, we got to fly in on dragons, Zwift. Like, I want to be flying in on my dragon. Come on. Speaking of flying in dragons, that's a good segue to this. What is this? What is this?
Yeah, so I got sent this, tagged in it, and I always like people who are tagging me in their fashion posts. So it's this kit you can see just in the middle there, that kind of like bright yellow one. That's the rider that they're highlighting. Although I did like that blue kit that just went by. So I'm loving that bike. So the kit is pretty loud and crazy. But the bike, so they've paired the jersey perfectly with the bright green on the front of the bike, and then they kind of go in and out, and then they've got their shoes and their socks match perfectly with the back end of the bike. They've got the fire socks on. So I'm not sure if someone can tell me what that bike is. It's a really cool yellow gradiated.
Is that the
aqua
paint? Is that a weird retro paint unlock or something? Like, it looks like it's a different one. That they messed with it a little bit or something. So this is NZ Bro _1 over the NZ Bro team, Zwift team, esports team, I think it is, that posted this over on Instagram. So if you want to go check this out, that's what we're looking at. There's a little reel that they did.
Fashion.
And also, I'm not playing the music in the background. It's featuring Fergie, Glamorous, featuring Luke Ludacris, actually, if you want to check out the reel. But love the fashion in the field that you were able to pick up on here from NZ Bro. Looks like you commented, actually, on it, too. I'm reading all the comments right now.
I'd say, like, it looks pretty good. I mean, a lot of people ask me if their fashion's on point. Like, it's pretty loud and out there. I think this does emphasize the point, though, and I think hopefully Zwift is hearing the fashion words spoken. People really care what they look like on Zwift. People put, like you heard BamBam talking about, people are putting effort into what their avatar looks like, what their bike looks like. So, man, get some game dev in there so that we can spend those drops on personalizing our stuff so that it can more emphasize our personalities in game. That's all
otherwise you're all just the same pixels riding around, and it's at that point it's just a training platform. Not saying it isn't a training platform, but then it's just, you know what I mean? If you don't really expand that and personalize it and tell that story in some sort of way, then there's not any identification with it. And, is there even anything else going on here besides pedaling, So that's a great point. Yeah. I like that. Well, that is going to be it from us. What's coming up over the next week? You got Zwift Grand Prix tomorrow. Anything else happening over the next week, Anna?
ZRL next week. So there is the battle between us and 24. And I've got to say, we've come out of the TTT with so much confidence, and we've got Jackie Godby back next week. And we're all Jack Attack and Zombie. I think Zombie might be DSing for us. That's Christy. And we're pumped and ready to go. I love Leg Snapper course. This is, I just love, I've got to say, Leg Snapper, now that they've got the KOM at the top of that, they had him for a while. This is the first time we've raced it in ZRL, though, with that at the top. And Sai and I talked about it in the Route Reveal show. Like, pumped. Awesome.
That is so cool. I said the same thing at the end of America's broadcast, actually. As we were leaving, I was like, we've never done this in ZRL because that KOM wasn't there. It's a new feature. So this changes things up completely. And that's one of the best race courses out there, in my opinion. As far as racing goes, I love Innsbruck Ring. Really great. So I'm excited as well for next week, just as from a commentary. I like this course so much, I might do the appetizer on Saturday morning. That might be, or something like, or do one of the recon races, because this course is so much fun. Really looking forward to that next week. For me, I'm on a rest week. For some reason, coming over the top of, January, being freshly married, we're both very competitive, and I'm like, we're kind of pushing each other, I feel like, and it's like, in some really good ways, that is like, I'm really thinking about this next season of in real life racing a little bit more than usual, and we've both been doing a lot of base, and I'm like, hey, this structure is really nice as far as the training, and so I actually just got done doing what I didn't expect to be my first layer of base training. And I'm like, all right, I'm taking a real rest week because I really, really needed it. And then going to do a whole lot more. So I'm like a break from racing, actually. Like, this is a treat that I get to race this weekend, or, leading up into this next ZRL, just as a little bit of a kick. But other than that, like, I'm pretty focused right now. And building up programs, and that has everything to do with the new Guerra Gains club that we just launched. We skipped that actually earlier, which is totally fine, but we're starting to do some just sharing that side of things, because I've shared so much about what I'm doing with Zwift Racing, which I love Zwift Racing. I'm doing that a ton, obviously, this past fall and early winter, but now it's like, as it shifts, I'm like, well, I'm always sharing what I'm doing with Zwift, so let's go ahead and share what we're doing for our workouts and training. So we're going to be leading some of that live streaming actually tomorrow morning prior to Zwift Grand Prix commentary. We're running some speed work, which is at the end of my rest week, and we'll do that weekly or bi-weekly. So make sure, if you want to jump in to the Guerra Gains Club, it's open. We're attraction rather than promotion, though. Like, I'm not promoting this like, hey, come on in. I'd rather have I love Zwift Insiders, amazing 23,000 members or whatever. But for me and what we're trying to do there, it's more of like, I want a really, really quality, like, this is a tight-knit group that's doing similar training and following along with, like, here's what we're up to watch each other build and get gains. That's really identifiable. Whereas, like, I think the feel of a Zwift Insider thing is more of like a really large Facebook group where everybody's like, cheer, cheer, yay, yay, boom. It's like being in a football stadium. You know what I mean?
And so what are you saying, Nathan? There's no cheering. It's just like, come and get your gains and shut up.
Have you ever ridden with me, Anna? I mean, that's kind of also like, that's kind of like Nathan's coaching is bread and butter. You want to get fast? All right. Like, I ain't going to sugarcoat it for you. So that is kind of very well put. I love it that you picked up on that, Anna. I absolutely love that you picked up on that. All right, everybody. So this has been episode number 27 on this Thursday, January 19th. You can catch this as a podcast. If you want to download the audio of it, go ahead and go to anywhere that you download a podcast, search The Wrap and Zwift, and you should find my name and Anna's somewhere in that description. You can get this episode along with all 26 others, audio download. Also, make sure to hit those follow button, subscribe, comment, like on any of the places that we've been live, which is Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We appreciate all the support from the community. We'll be back with episode number 28 next week from Anna and myself. We'll see you out on Zwift, and as always, ride on.